Hello and welcome to another edition of For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest today is Rosanna Ortiz-Sinel. She is founder and president of Style Week, and we'll meet her when we come back, so stay with us. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest today, Rosanna Ortiz-Sinel. She is the founder and president of Style Week. It's her first time on the show. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
For those around Rhode Island and elsewhere who may not know what Style Week is, let's sort of give them a basic synopsis of that.
So Style Week is a regional fashion week that is supported by the CFDA in New York City. So the CFDA is the Council of Fashion Designers of America, and we hold a 7-day full-service fashion week twice a year in Providence for emerging designers specifically from the region in the United States.
Now you want to be attached to the CFDA. I mean, that's a big deal, isn't it?
It is a big deal. It was very important for me to establish a business-oriented fashion week in the New England area and make it more of a serious fashion event rather than a glorified cocktail event, if you wish, where the designers were getting press from it, they were getting known, they were getting buyers, hopefully.
And that's what you want, right?
That's exactly what we want.
So paint a picture for us when someone attends this event, when they walk in, what do they see? What can they experience?
Well, it's really interesting with Style Week because I really wanted to make it a fashion event that was for the industry as well as for the community in Rhode Island and Connecticut and Massachusetts. So anyone in the community can attend for a ticket price, but the industry is automatically invited, complimentary. You would walk in, you would enjoy a wonderful cocktail area. You would, shop our accessory showcase, which is the only end consumer portion of Style Week. And then you would go into our runway room at the Providence Biltmore, where we build the runway from start to finish, and a lot of people have said that they feel like they're in New York, so that makes me feel like $1 million bucks.
That's a big deal.
Yeah,
actually.
That's great.
Well, obviously New York certainly has its influence as it stretches its arms out to Providence and maybe even beyond. Now, when you say it's designed for insiders as well, do you send out the invites to all them? And are you noticing over the course of time that more and more of the quote-unquote big wigs are starting to show up at it?
I do. And you know what's really interesting?
You can name drop if you want to.
That's actually one of my biggest pet peeves.
Don't do that.
But it's interesting because we first started it in 2010. So our first Style Week was June 2010. And I really thought it was going to be an event where only about 75 to 100 people would attend. The last night, we had over 550 people attend.
Wow.
And I was amazed at how much press showed up. The Providence Journal, who is very selective in who they give coverage to, covered us every single day.
Wow.
It was something that the community, I think, was really yearning for. And I'm hoping that we created and filled that niche for the community in Rhode Island and the Northeast, but also the emerging designers who are here who can't necessarily afford to show in New York or any other metropolitan city that surrounds us.
Do you think Providence, and I know the answer to this because people are showing up, but is Providence savvy to the point where they obviously support this, but is it a city and the surrounding area, is that the type of city that this kind of event is perfect for? You know,
it's funny, I'm glad you asked that question. I grew up in Boston for many years, and I'm originally from the West Coast, but why I picked Providence to have a major fashion week was because of the proximity to Boston and New York.
Quick driving.
Completely, I'm amazed. And it can completely sustain a fashion week, where a fashion week and people seem to forget this, a fashion week is a trade event, if you will. So it is made there to showcase these designers for seasons to come. So the designers will show the collection with the industry standard of being a season ahead. So next week we're going to be showing collections from fall 2013. And we're the only regional fashion week that does that stays with the industry standard. And then in August we show spring summer 2014.
So you're looking at the future. You're seeing stuff that's not out yet but will be.
Always, always. Right? And to get back to your initial question, Providence can completely sustain this because the city's so creative and stylistic in its own. I find that it's not as conservative as surrounding cities, and it really opened their arms up to this type of event, and it also creates an economic spark.
It sure does. Providence has a lot of cultural diversity.
Very much.
And like you said, that short driving distance from Boston and New York just makes it like a perfect spot for it.
It's so central. It really, really is. I like to call it the Portland, Oregon of the East Coast, but just with a little bit better clothing.
Yeah, there you go. 2010 is when you started. So I want to talk about how it has evolved from from humble beginnings to where it is now. Obviously, you've learned some things. You probably have a bigger staff now. Obviously, it's grown, so that means your venue has probably changed and grown as well, right?
Not too much. We've been at the Biltmore since our second Style Week installment.
You are seeing attendance increase, though.
We're seeing attendance increase. We actually have surpassed the Biltmore size-wise.
Wow.
But the Biltmore has been one of our biggest sponsors. It's our home base for Style Week, and I really don't know where else we would go after that. It would be really hard to find a venue.
Well, you know what, though? There's always the possibility that you could outgrow a physical facility.
Absolutely. You know? I mean, my eventual dream is to build a Style Week building. That would be, wonderful. But it's also really important for people and the community to understand that all of us work on no salary. Everyone who's on my staff is still voluntary. And that just blows my mind completely. I mean, these people really want to be a part of this dream that I had. And I will always stay humble to the beginnings of that. You know, we're gradually making it work, and our sponsors are amazing, and we have more national sponsors. We have more people driving just a little bit further to attend the events because of the caliber of the designers that we show is out of this world.
So now talk to me about what you've learned and maybe some minor changes that you've made over the course of the time that you started to now, because it is an evolving process, but you learn what to do and what not to do, right?
You truly do. And having your own business teaches you more about yourself than you will ever know. It's been a personal journey as well as a professional journey, but the biggest thing that I've learned is always go with your gut. Always go with your gut rather than opinions. Don't second guess that feeling. I have a couple of rules at Style Week because a lot of fashion weeks kind of tend to be intimidating. A lot of people feel that they won't fit in, or they don't have the right clothing, or they get a little intimidated by the types of attendees who they'll be surrounded with. And at Style Week, I actually have a no bag policy.
Is that right? Well, I guess I can't.
But we want everyone to feel good about themselves and not come into check-in and have an attitude. With my check-in girls, or don't feel intimidated to come because fashion has been so marginalized that way, where it is a fashion week for everyone.
You're right, though. There is a perception of it, being very maybe diva-ish. Would that be
very much? Yeah.
And that probably still exists, in the industry in general.
Completely. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing more than I cannot stand than entitlement. And we've thrown out some people, I have personally, for attitudes.
Huh?
And they like to definitely throw the card of who they are, do you know who I know? And it really doesn't matter to me, because your character and integrity is the most important to me with my volunteers, my workers, myself, and the people who attend.
Now, the people who have that attitude, are you talking about people that are actually in the industry, maybe?
Both.
Is that right?
Attendees, industry people,
No kidding, wow.
But you gotta, kind of smack them in the butt for them to get some humbleness sometimes.
Yeah.
And they won't forget it.
You just come and enjoy the event and be a part of it instead of thinking that you are the event.
Exactly. So, and that's one thing that I think the community has really respected Style Week for, where I'll get letters after of people saying that they felt so comfortable, and that's the stuff that really touches my heart, and that's why I want to have this. I never want to be that unattainable fashion week, because all of these designers create garments for every person.
Guys and
every
girls,
walk of life,
kids.
Men, women, plus size, minuscule size, everyone across the board. And fashion touches every single lifestyle.
That's a good point that you make, because not speaking for designers, but maybe just attendees in general, maybe a guy would think that, not knowing what it is, that he might not be interested in it, or it might not be appropriate for him. But listen, there's kids stuff there, like you said, plus sizes, styles and stuff like that. So there really is something for everybody, right?
Absolutely. I mean, some of the stylish women I know are plus size, and I love that. You know, it's not about what you look like. It really is who you are, and style is just a bonus.
Now, you do it twice a year, Style Week?
Twice a year, yeah.
Okay, so what's different from I assume there's a winter one and a summer one, correct?
Exactly.
Obviously, you know, fashion for you're always looking ahead. So talk about the differences between the two shows.
So one is fall winter and the other is spring summer. So for instance, in our marketing collateral, like our website graphics will change with every season, you know, more lighter, darker, or more, you know, moodier, or, you know, whatever, however the season sees fit. The one great thing about the collections and the different changes in season is all of our designers that show on our runway, they show debut collections. So they're never photographed, they're never shown anywhere else. They are brand new and completely special to Style Week.
Are they as a model always wearing them?
Yes,
okay.
So it is, the format is a full runway show where there's, you know, models walking down the runway between 12 to 25 looks.
Now, as far as models themselves go, are you of the opinion that, you know, not everyone should necessarily look like a supermodel that's walking up and down there? You kind of want to have the regular person wearing the stuff too, right?
Absolutely, and it's a really, I'm glad you brought up that question as well, because a lot of people will make comments about, you know, some of our models being too thin. And there is a certain reason why a fashion runway model is a fashion runway model. You need to notice the clothes. If I had Sofia Vergara as our runway model, you're not going to notice.
I would really try to go to that show.
Right? But you're not going to notice what she's wearing because you're going to notice her amazing physique. It's too sexy. It's too sensual. It's too like the modern woman. Where a fashion runway model has less of that physique. And they show the clothing the way it should be shown, the way where you're not getting sidetracked by something of the body part of the model.
But, you know, on the flip side of that, isn't the average person, unfortunately, weight-wise, more curvy than that fashion runway model? So reality is they're going to be more bulky.
They're going to fill it out.
Yeah,
they're definitely going to fill it out, absolutely. And the designers want that. You know, they want the real woman to wear it. But to make a statement show or to have it more editorial and just notice the garment on its whole, it's a little bit better.
Well, if you get Sophia, I'm there for sure.
I know, right? And we had one designer, a beloved designer, who always used really sexy women on the runway.
And it kind of defeated the purpose, though, didn't it?
It did.
Yeah.
And I'd have to talk with them and be like, honey, they're too pretty.
Yeah.
They're just a little too conventionally pretty, where our high fashion models are gorgeous, but in a different way.
Right.
It's a business, you know, and...
So you're doing 2 shows, okay?
Yes.
So how long does it take to plan? And when you get done with one show, are you literally walking out of the building and you start thinking about the show 6 months from now?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
I'm actually starting to think about August now. So there really isn't any rest time, especially for me, and it's constant thinking. It's constant trying to be a little bit more forward thinking. I like to stay a little ahead of the curve with our runway shows, where we're not like your conventional runway show. We like to take risks on the runway. We like to make it more of a theatrical performance. We definitely like to play more with our styling. The concepts need to be a little bit more out of the box. I kind of come from that belief that any publicity is good publicity. So if
whether
somebody,
it works or not, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, if someone doesn't agree with, you know, something they see on the runway, they're still going to talk about it and it's still going to make a mental impression. You know, so I'm always, you know, with my team just trying to create the next best Style Week. Conceptually.
So when you're putting it together, all right, talk us through, you know, your first steps. Let's say you get done with one, okay, and you are planning the next show. What are the first things you do? What gets taken care of first down the line, and what is like the last minute stuff where, you know, as you're waiting for the show to start, you're almost going, okay, you know?
First things first is designers. If I didn't have designers, I wouldn't have a Style Week. So we go out there and we start putting feelers out for new designers who want to show with us, or we go ahead and bring back our returning designers. That's the first thing. And I have a design acquisition team that works on that. And then for me, it's immediately finding sponsors. Because the sooner that I have a sponsor, the more promotion time they get. Whereas I feel badly when a sponsor comes in a month before, then they just miss 4 months of promotion.
That's a good point. They really miss out.
Completely miss it. And I come from a PR background, so the more you can get, the better. And being a part of Style Week on a sponsor level is like being with a PR campaign.
Speaking of sponsors, since we are in this time of the reality of the economy the way it is that tough for you, you know, as far as getting sponsors and the reality of their budgets or whatever it is that's going on in their lives?
Yeah, it's, you know, it's always tough, but it's important to me where I'm not a money person in the sense where I'm like, I need to find this, I need to find all this money. I need to make sure that it's mutually beneficial for Style Week and the company who's coming on board. Where, for instance, if I do come across a brand new sponsor and they're a little trepidatious of putting financial commitment into Style Week, let's try a trade first. Let's see if this demographic is for you. Where a Fashion Week demographic is across the board women, and women are the decision makers in any relationship. I don't care how controlling the man is.
Really?
But they have a lot of pull. So there's a lot of women. You get in front of a lot of women who are coming from different walks of life. But we had to make sure that it's a perfect fit. Like Swarovski is one of our sponsors, and Redken's one of our sponsors. It's a perfect fit.
Do you have to approach corporate-wise these companies?
Yeah, to an extent, where we do have more of a regional point of contact, and then we get corporate okay. So.
And they're open, and obviously the success that you've had makes it easier to go back to some of those companies, but at the same time, the realities of if you want to say that we're still in a recession, then they have to consider it.
They had to cut back, or we do something a little bit different. But yeah, it's always a perfect balance,
right.
And there are some sponsors who can't come back, but they're still partners, So the thing with Style Week is relationship. And it's very important to cultivate that relationship and maintain it, and not just be about money grubbing,
right.
essentially.
So sponsors, now continue on from there as far as, you've got them taken care of or trying to at that point. What comes next and continue on?
So venue, the cultivation of the theme, how we're going to do that. We automatically go into filming our marketing collateral, which is basically our images that we use on all of our marketing and our graphics during Style Week and promotionally before. Working with our media sponsor, who's amazing. Providence Monthly has been our media sponsor, and who has actually given us the opportunity to create a Style Week magazine called Look Magazine. It's our second one that's out. Lots of photo shoots, with our designers to promote them. Majority of it is just getting everyone on board, because as being a 7-day fashion week, we show 3 shows a day, which equals out to 15 to 21 designers. So it's a lot of maintaining and a lot of managing.
Yeah. Are the weekends usually the busiest times where people are in attendance in general?
Yeah, mostly. Where it's really interesting, because last season our Monday night was incredibly packed.
No kidding, really?
Yeah, it was really great, and it really does. Now that the designers have been showing at Style Week, like our regulars who return often, now they have a huge following. So people will come to Style Week now, not just because of Style Week, but they will come because of Jonathan Joseph Peters, or they will come because of Carl Wickman. So they will come as a destination for that designer.
I want to talk about designers a little bit more, because the first thing that popped into my mind are the designers up and comers? Are they established? Are they big names? What kind of designers are we talking about
They're
here?
all emerging.
Really?
Yeah. So the Style Week brand focuses on emerging designers. And a lot of these people could be designers for 10 years, but they're not yet mainstream, so they're still an emerging designer. But we show designers from all over the region and all over the nation. And that's one of the biggest misconceptions about Style Week, was a lot of people thought we just focus on Providence designers, where no, Providence is just a location. We've shown designers from Georgia, Detroit, Chicago, Montreal.
And different styles from different countries and different states.
Absolutely.
Might be a little bit of a different take on something depending on where they're from, who the designer is. Do you think that as it's growing, and it has grown, and you're doing it twice a year, is it possible that maybe not necessarily a bigger venue per se, because you're happy where you are, but how about in another city somewhere, since it's northeast, instead of just, like you said, not Providence, could another city pop up?
Oh, absolutely. We've developed our format to work in any other environment. So we just did Style Week Resort in Miami in July.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we were there for 3 days.
Nice.
It was wonderful, loved it. I don't think I'll go back to Florida though, because I would really like to refine everything we have up here. So I decided to go to Boston in March for the resort.
So it's not just the 2 style weeks, really. Even that may seem like a daunting task, but it's even much more than that, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I'm doing Style Week Boston March 21st to the 23rd. Very small, 3-day, 9 designers, invitation only to just try it in a different region. And I'm a Boston girl by heart, so that really is one of my cities. And I'm excited to bring it there. They're very excited that we're coming, and that just makes me feel really great.
Being a much bigger city, a top 10 city like Boston, is the culture even more different up there?
The culture is a little different. They're a little bit more conservative.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a little bit more conservative, but Boston has amazing venues and amazing designers. A lot of people didn't even know that these designers lived in Boston. So we show a lot of Boston designers at Style Week as well, and it'll be great to kind of showcase and bring light to Boston designers up there, but we also have 3 designers from New York who will be showing during.
Now, New York, how about that? Is that more progressive? If you said Boston is more conservative, would New York?
New York's much more progressive. Okay, I mean, New York is the pinnacle of fashion weeks outside of Europe.
Right.
And it's really interesting because New York Fashion Week is 5.7% of jobs in New York State.
Wow.
So people tend to forget that once again, where these are huge money makers for the community.
Yeah.
And people partake in them.
Yeah, but I would imagine even in Providence, for 2 times week-long events, that's money makers, not just for this event, but vendors in and around where you're at, everything from parking people to,
restaurants,
all that stuff, having dinner, hotel,
absolutely. And the city of Providence has been my biggest supporter. I went more of the political route in the beginning rather than going in a
political
route.
in Providence?
Yeah, I know, right? So I don't know what that is. But, I had, the senator and the congressman and the mayor, completely back this up. And that was very important because it was very important for me to explain to them how important this is for a city. And it just brings light to the city.
Right.
And Providence was already amazing to begin with. I thought, perfect. It was a puzzle piece.
So I'm going to assume that Style Week is very much plugged into social media, right?
Very much.
Yeah.
Very much.
Facebook,
Twitter, our Facebook Style Week. Our Twitter is Style Week NE for Northeast. We also have Style Week Public Relations, where we help fashion designers kind of build their brands, and that's Style Week PR. And yeah, it's we're all over social networking.
And this and YouTube. This show will be on our YouTube channel, so people will be able to go and watch this show, and just another opportunity for them. So, is there any specific details for attendees that want to attend the show? What they have to look forward to, where they should park, what it will cost to get in, little things like that? Yeah,
well, our ticket prices are very reasonable because when you do purchase a ticket to Style Week, you purchase it for the entire night, not just that show.
Okay.
So, for instance, it's $40 for Thursday, and you go in and you see 3 shows. You get to shop the accessory showcase, and you're also supporting Style Week, which I can't say thank you enough for that, because it's a very expensive event to put on. But so you're getting the whole tamale, and then you get to go into the after events, and that's always fun. You get to mingle with the designers. So it's relatively, inexpensive.
Yeah.
And then for our key shows, which are opening and closing, that's $60, which evens out to $20 a show, and you get the whole night. And the closing show is pretty phenomenal because we end with our Project Runway designer, Jonathan Joseph Peters, and it's a really big night. He's got a huge following in the Northeast, and he's a great person. He's also on our staff.
How about the Style Week website? Where do they go to?
StyleWeekNortheast.com.
All right, and what can they see on the website?
They can see our schedule, and they can see our restaurant partners. They can see our sponsors, and they can buy tickets.
All right, and also, I'm sure there are links to, like you said, your Facebook page and Twitter and stuff like that on the website.
Yep, they're all on the website, absolutely.
All right, sounds like a fun event, all the events. Rosanna Ortiz-Sinel, she is the founder and president of Style Week. Looking forward to it, and also appreciate you being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you for joining us for another edition of For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. We will see you next time. Take care.